Okay, picture this. You're on a flight, and suddenly the voice of the UK's Prime Minister comes over the intercom. But he's speaking from the cockpit. Pretty wild, right? Well, that is exactly how this landmark visit kicked off, with Keir Starmer himself setting this incredibly energetic tone before the plane even landed.
And yeah, this was no ordinary diplomatic trip. Starmer brought with him a massive delegation, 125 CEOs, university leaders, you name it. The Indian media even called it a barat, which is like a huge wedding procession. And I love that because it tells you this was all about forging a really deep, meaningful connection.
So, let's get into it. We're going to unpack why this visit is so much more than just a few handshakes and a photo op. This is really about a huge shift in global alliances, a strategic realignment that's being driven by some of the biggest pressures the world is facing today.
All right, so a prime minister in the cockpit? To really get why that happened, you've got to understand the backdrop here, the incredibly high stakes that were hiding behind all of that spectacle.
The big picture is that both nations are trying to find their footing in a really uncertain world. You've got the UK, still carving out its path after Brexit and desperately needing new markets. And at the same time, both the UK and India are feeling the heat from things like US trade disruptions. So they're both looking for new, reliable partners.
And you can just feel the urgency here. Starmer himself has made it crystal clear this is a top priority. He promised to get this new agreement running as soon as humanly possible. So this isn't about kicking the can down the road for years, it's about action right now.
Okay, so at the absolute core of this new era is a massive free trade agreement. You'll hear it called an FTA, and this thing is basically the economic engine that's designed to completely reshape the entire relationship. So for anyone who's not totally sure, what is an FTA? Well, think of it like this. It's basically a deal to slash the taxes, we call them tariffs, on stuff that's traded between countries. The bottom line, it just makes it cheaper and easier for everyone to buy and sell from each other. Simple as that.
And this is where it gets really interesting, seeing what's in it for both sides. For the UK, we're talking huge wins for iconic stuff like Scotch whisky and cars. But for India, get this, a whopping 99% of their exports to the UK will become tariff-free. That's a massive boost for their textile industry and opens the door for their amazing IT pros.
And this just shows you the insane scale of the change. Just look at Scotch whisky. It had this crazy high 150% tariff in India. 150%. This deal slices that in half, literally overnight, and the plan is for it to drop even more. That is a total game changer.
So what's the bottom line? What does all this add up to? Well, experts are projecting this deal is going to pump up trade by a staggering £25.5 billion every single year. That is just a massive injection of growth and opportunity for both economies.
But look, as huge as that trade deal is, this partnership goes so much deeper than just, buying and selling stuff. We're moving way beyond that. Let's talk about how this whole thing builds into a true strategic alliance.
So there's actually an official framework for this, and it's called the Vision 2035 Roadmap. And that name tells you everything, right? This isn't some quick fix. It's a detailed blueprint for a really deep partnership that's built to last for decades. And it's all built on these 5 key pillars. I mean, we are talking about everything from joint military security and tech collaboration on things like AI, all the way to making it easier for students and professionals to move between the countries and working together on green energy. It's the whole shebang.
The defense side of things is a perfect example of how deep this is going. The whole idea is to completely evolve the relationship, to go from a simple buyer-seller dynamic where India just buys UK gear to a future where they're actually co-designing, co-producing, and even jointly exporting advanced tech together.
So what does that actually look like on the ground? Well, it means their militaries are going to be working way more closely. We're talking more joint exercises, sharing intelligence in real time, and coordinating on maritime security in the super important Indo-Pacific region. This is serious stuff.
Okay, so we've talked economics, we've talked strategy. Now let's pull back and look at the bigger picture. Because honestly, this partnership is making some huge waves on the world stage. A partnership on this scale doesn't just happen in a bubble. It sends a massive signal to the other big players out there. You've got to wonder, right? What are the US, China, and the EU making of all this as they watch it unfold? Essentially, this alliance is becoming a new pillar in a world that's changing fast. It's a pretty clear strategic answer to trade unpredictability from places like the US.
It's also a key piece in that global push to diversify supply chains, away from China. And for the UK, it's a huge statement about its role in the world after Brexit.
And here's a really key point, something that makes this whole thing so potent. Back in Britain, this strong relationship with India has support across the board, from all the major political parties. And in today's turbulent world, that kind of stability is an incredibly rare and valuable thing.
So when you boil it all down, that visit, the cockpit announcement, the giant delegation, all of it was about one thing: turning promises into action. It was all about hitting the accelerator on what many believe is one of the most promising global partnerships of the 21st century.
Which leaves us with one last big question to think about. In an age where old alliances seem to be fracturing and the world is getting more divided, could this be the new blueprint? Is this deep, multi-layered, and pragmatic partnership the way you build powerful, reliable global alliances in the future?